So we could probably get started. I've not presented anything in a really long time, so excuse me for this rushed and thrown together presentation. I started building websites when I was about 10 years old, and it was a hobby and a passion of mine. For the last 11 years, I've been working professionally as a full-stack JavaScript engineer. I've worked energy technology company. I've worked at American Express, Optum Health, Change Healthcare, and Educational Media Foundation, to name a few. In my spare time, if I'm not working on some programming thing, I come home and I build some programming thing because that's just what I like to do. I have a lot of hobbies, but programming has always been a persistent hobby of mine over the years. So today, what I want to do is show you some of the software I've built. What I want to basically outline, generally, what this presentation is. Here's the software I have. It's kind of here we are. I want to talk a little bit about what I imagine where it could be or where we could be, and talk a little bit about how we're going to get there. I started a Slack channel like a decade ago, and I reopened that up today. And I'm going to see if I can invite. There's an invite link here somewhere. See if I can plop that in the chat, and if you guys want to join that, or not, whatever you want, it's just how we're going to move forward, staying in touch and communicating. If you want to be a part of this project and just kind of see what happens. Hi, Matt. We're just getting started. All right, so I'm going to figure out how to share my screen. Just the entire screen. Oops. There we go. All right. All right. Can you guys see my screen all right?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So this is it doesn't look as pretty as it could, I'll admit that, but this is the automation controller. I'm just running all this stuff local. The idea behind the automation controller started off as basically a grow house controller. First for growing oyster mushrooms. Me and my cousin wanted to grow gourmet oyster mushrooms and sell them to high-end restaurants in San Francisco. And we're growing them. We put up a shed, and you're going to put $1,200 worth of grain spawn in a shed, and if it hits 80 degrees, it's toast. So that's kind of what started this idea. It developed over the years. It's gone through many iterations and versions, concepts, hardware, the whole 9 yards. And one day I realized, it just needs to be an anything controller. It's not specific to anything. It's for everything. So that's where this has come in. So I'm going to show you. I got a piece of software running in the background on the right side here. This is a piece of software that basically mimics a device. And if you see my camera here, if you guys see this, this is an ESP32 microprocessor. This has also been programmed to work with this system. So you'll see it'll start up there, print some nice stuff on the screen, and tell you its IP address. And on the bottom there, if you can see that, it's got a couple dashes that indicate one of each of the 7 relays that it's going to drive. It's not hooked up right now, obviously, but this is a 8 relay block. It's got these little pins here, and they would tie to certain pins on the chip, and this would allow the chip to turn relays on and off. It's just an electronic switch. So I'll set that there running. And as you see here on the left on the automation controller, this is laid out. There's just a few sections here. The top one says Network V1 Alpha. If we click this here, just clicking on that, what happened is the server saw the chip was online because the chip broadcasts its connection information over multicast DNS. It's on the local network. It's already connected to the Wi-Fi. So when that comes online, it says, hey, network, here I am. So the server picks that up and shows it to me. If I click on the address that was picked up, it'll direct me to the info page on the chip. Now, this is a web server also running on the chip. And this piece of data basically is the chip telling the server, here's what I am, here's what I do, here's what I have, here's the protocols I support. If we go down a little bit, we have this data description. There are no inputs on this device, meaning it has no sensors. It has no temperature, humidity, anything like that. But it has on the outputs, it has a block for each relay. And this describes how to interact with the relay. Anyways, this information is consumed here. I'll hit register device. And if you look in the background, you'll see that the 8 or 7 relays will load up there in the scheduler. And if you give it a second, that status turns red, so it's talking, it's communicating. You'll notice this little heart will beat every once in a while. That beats when the device actually broadcasts an update to its current state, essentially. There's no inputs, but there's outputs, so that output heart you'll see beat every once in a while. So we'll be done with that. So that automatically goes into the system and puts its inputs and its outputs everywhere they need to be. Now, over here, this is the JavaScript one that's running, that's providing some fake data for the demonstration. Same thing, it broadcasts on MDNS, system picks it up, register the device. Looks like everything's going. And you can see here under inputs, this is the data that it's updating the system in real time. And this one has 2 fake relays. So it'll act like a relay. It'll actually, remember the state and tell the server if it's on or off. So that's pretty cool. So the scheduler is pretty simple. You click on a block here, which is it represents a day's worth of time. We can adjust the time if we want manually here with the sliders or with the numbers. We go ahead and hit save, and that's created. Now that in the background, the server is identifying, oh, we need to turn this on. It says, what's the device's current state? What is the desired state? And it determines what needs to change, and then it goes and tells the device, hey, go change this. On the left side here, this little on button is the actual status of the relay that the device reports to us. So by clicking this and setting this here, the little ESP chip has now turned on its relay. And I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but the one of the little dashes turns into a line there. So when you look at the device, you can actually see what it thinks it's doing, which is pretty cool. And same thing, if we click on this again and delete it, within a moment, it'll go, oh, we need to turn that off now. And there it goes. Looks like I have some people joining. Let me admit. There we go. Hi, Rebecca. All right. So that's the scheduler. Now, for those of you who play video games, I didn't know what to call the automation portion of this, so I kind of modeled it off of the Final Fantasy XII Gambit system. So I call it the Gambit system. We might have to come up with a new name for that. So here's how it works. The devices have registered their inputs and their outputs. And I'm gonna admit this, and I'm gonna pull this out so I can switch between it a little easier. So they all report their inputs and outputs, so we can go ahead, let's create a new condition. And we'll just call this like high temp. And we'll put it in the greenhouse group. We'll add an expression. This first drop down is all your devices. So we're going to select the input from the fake device that's giving us our data. We'll select the temperature Fahrenheit, its current value. If its current value is greater than or equal to 80 degrees, then it will be a true condition. The plate value, I didn't know what to call it. I called it a plate value. It's really important. If you can imagine, you have to set up to turn on an air conditioner when it hits 80 degrees in the greenhouse, right? Well, you don't want to turn an AC on at 80 degrees and then turn it off again at 79, and then turn it on again at 80 and turn it off at 79. You need a little range of buffers. Say, turn it on at 80 degrees, and the plate value says turn it off when your plate value amount less than value amount. So in this case, it'll turn on at 80 degrees and it'll be turn off or be false at 75 degrees. So let's go ahead and save that as a condition. The reaction is very similar. Create a new reaction, and we'll say, you know, open greenhouse vent. And we'll add it to the greenhouse group. We'll put this on the other device, so this is the ESP chip, and we'll do relay 4. So when this reaction is triggered, we're going to say we need to turn relay 4 on. You could also say to turn off, depending on what you're trying to do, right? Try to make this flexible. So then we come down here to our gambit section. This is a group. This is the greenhouse group. And we're going to come in here and create a new gambit. And here we have our conditions and our reactions. So when high temperature condition is detected, we want to open greenhouse vent reaction. Now, if I have multiple conditions and reactions, I can put them in here. So that you can have multiple required conditions and you can do multiple reactions. Anyways, once that's set, you can turn it on. Let me go add. Someone wants to join this call. Oh boy. There we go. So you can see down here the current temperature is 94, 95 degrees. It's well above 80. So this is going to be on. And if we scroll down here, we can see the ESP chip, relay number 4, is turned on. So this just runs in the background. If we have multiple gambits, the one that's at the top has the highest priority. So this way, if one thing says you need to turn the relay on, but another more important thing comes along and says, no, you need to turn that relay off and turn this other one on, you kind of have some control over that. So that's the basis of it. Devices, conditions, reactions. There's a basic user system in here, but it doesn't really, there's not really a login or anything for it yet. It's just kind of I threw it together. The idea is, if you can look at my camera, this is called a Rock 64 Pro. This is by the Pine company. And I just got this today. This is going to be, I think, the server that would run the automation controller. So the automation controller would be a device someone buys, and any number of ESP chips with relays, temperature sensors, humidity sensors, light sensors, lux sensors, color value sensor, barometric pressure, wind speed, whatever kind of sensor we can think of. We would have a whole bunch of these chips with all these different sensors on it and relays, and together these would sit on a network and operate a greenhouse, or operate a mushroom growing operation, or operate certain elements of a farm or a homestead or a ranch, something like that. You could potentially operate you could automate elements of, say, a warehouse operation with like conveyor belts and stuff. So it's kind of a decision-making, decision controller. I'll show you. So you've seen the ESP, you've seen the Pine 64. This is the box for it. It's just a generic box. This is going to get mounted out. This is the first one to run a test. I'm running a real-world test for the automation controller, so I'm going to be trying to get that out the door in a couple weeks. Yeah, all right. So we'll move on from that. I guess I'll take a moment to stop talking and ask if anybody else has any questions. I'm having a little trouble hearing you there. I don't know if it's...
mic, hold on.
Oh, that's a lot better. Hell yeah.
All right, yeah, wrong mic.
Right on.
All right, so, what comes to mind is temperature and time-sensitive material, because I work in supply chain. We deal with that a lot. And we don't have, Boeing anyways, I know they don't have devices that are on composite material or any material that is time or temperature sensitive once it goes outside of a freezer or anything like that. So I'm thinking of all the supplier companies that have composite material, even car companies, anything that needs to be tracked, how long it's been out of the freezer, what temperature it's been at. It's not just, so even in the food industry, right? So things like that. I'm sure the food industry has something out there, but and they don't really keep food outside freezer that long, but
Right.
all these manufacturing companies that keep these raw materials outside of the freezer because they've got to cut it or do something with it for a while. They have to track that stuff and they have to return things back to a freezer or wherever, a fridge or wherever else. So that's what I think of. I don't think of just greenhouse stuff.
Yeah.
Think of manufacturing plants and things like that. But when it comes to that site, it would really have to be an app because really, a lot of companies these days they've got the tablets, the phones out there. No one's really going to a computer anymore.
Right.
So that's kind of what I was thinking it would be a good use for.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. So I don't know if I went over at a high level. There's 4 general pieces of software that kind of work together. So the automation controller is the first one. And the way this came about is I built all the other software, and then when the automation controller finally became a thing, I kind of worked backwards a little bit and was like, oh, these things kind of work together nicely. So maybe each one can be its own product, but maybe they can provide a turnkey solution, all together. And so it's just kind of it is what it is. But I am looking for the different niches that it can be applied to, different ways of selling it or marketing it, different ways of applying it where it could be useful. Because this is just a hobby thing, but I would like to see it grow into something more. So I like those ideas. One thing, and I'll talk about it later. But there's another ESP oriented device for restaurants, and the idea is. Long story short, you can tell when failure is imminent on a walk-in freezer. And this would create a work order, send notifications. But this is just another kind of device in an automation network that it goes beyond just turning things on and off. It becomes, I would call it a utility, right? It's not just doing a thing for you. It's if you're not using it, then you're not making as much money as your competitor because it cuts business costs. So those are the kind of key things that, like, when you put it into those terms, I think people go, oh, I can save money. It's not just I'm spending money. This will actually save me money. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a little bit. All right, so let me go back to share my screen unless there's any other questions. All right. All right, so this is the ESP32 chip. I just showing you it's on Amazon. It's $13. It's the Arduino platform, and it runs C++, C++, and it has forget what it is, 240 or 280 megahertz dual core processor. It's got built-in Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, and it runs on like 3 volts, so it's pretty low power. This is the Rock 64. I think I heard. No one else is waiting. This is the Rock 64. This is the one that I just bought that I was shown earlier. And they have all kinds of add-ons. You can get an eMMC. It's basically a hard drive, right? It's up to 128 gigabytes onboard storage. There's quad-core, 6-core, 8-core processors. The one I have has like 4 gigs of RAM. It's got the HDMI, the Ethernet, multiple different kinds of USB, and just all kinds of stuff. And that pin bank at the top, you can actually put a screen on this, or even a touch screen in some cases. And so it can be a device that sits on the wall, and you can actually interact with it in person. And this is something personally I've seen used in in gas stations. I know someone who's starting a similar small software company, software as a service. There's some device-oriented things, and they're building boxes with these Pine 64 boards in them and putting them in the back of the gas station, and it monitors things and sends alerts and all this stuff. So each of the devices in the automation controller, you set this up on a network, and then hopefully there's an internet connection, and you set it and you forget it, and things just work. But you want to make sure things work, and you also want to be able to guarantee that if we find a problem with software and we release an update, we want to be able to easily offer those updates to customers. So this is heartbeatiot.com It's not. I don't think it's actually on the web right now. It might be, but I don't know that the one that's online right now actually works. But the idea here is this platform allows you or your company to sign up and register devices. And this is, I might need to refresh here, or I might have closed it. This is for remote system health reporting and remote access. And this is kind of a mock page. It's by no means flushed out, and it does not have real working data. Although the device notes and the notification configurations, those are actually working in the database. You know, they're set up to work now. But the idea here is that over WebSockets, every second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds, each device in your automation network, each piece of hardware that you want to monitor or software can report here, and you can track its system health. So if a device goes offline, you know, I worked at an energy technology company, and it's about 10 years ago, and we had these devices with batteries and electronics inside, in a little, kind of like the Pine 64 or a Raspberry Pi, a little computer inside. And we would fly guys to Hawaii or Saudi Arabia or Alabama, and they would unscrew the thing and push a button, problem solved. Nobody knows what happened, right? So one weekend I prototyped this heartbeat idea out, and I brought it in, presented it to the team, and the CEO said, "That's awesome, let's run with it." So I developed that concept for that company for about 2 years, and about 2 years after that, they went out of business. But that saved the company many thousands of dollars. We didn't have to fly people out to do that kind of stuff anymore, because if a device wasn't operating properly, usually the charts that showed the real-time data would just stop. And so someone would walk around and say, well, is it the customer's internet? Is their device broken? Is our API down? Is there, you know, what is the problem? Who knows? Who do I talk to? And so this tool allowed them to come to me instead, and I would look and say, well, it's online, so it's not it's not us, it's probably their internet. You know, I could say, oh yeah, the device had max disk space before it stopped responding. It's probably just needs to be restarted, or whatever it is. This gave us a lot of information and a lot of insight. So down here, the idea is every time the device reported data, we could click one of these buttons, and it would send the command to the device. And the reverse SSH right here, this one would allow us to send the command to the device, and then the device would make a reverse SSH connection to one of our servers, and we could piggyback off that connection to access the command line on the remote device without having to change NAT and firewall rules or anything like that on the customer's network. And this is really cool because wherever you put whatever network you put the device, you come here and click the button, and now you can access that device wherever it's at. No extra configuration or network anything needed. It's pretty cool. And there's some security concerns about how that would work, because you don't want the same credentials that the reverse SSH connection uses on every single device. If one device gets reverse engineered and those credentials get out, then you need to change everything. It just becomes a big hassle. So we want to address those kinds of issues before this would ever go into a real production situation. But that's a conversation, I guess, for another day. Anyway, so you know, the idea here is to have some real-time charts showing CPU usage, disk usage, memory usage, uptime, and maybe some nice real-time charts. This would all be over WebSockets, so it's, you know, every second or so things would be very responsive. As soon as you click one of these buttons, it would go tell the device, and the device would respond by doing that action very quickly. And this is going to lead us into the last piece of software that I have to show. You see here, this is the notification section. Right now, if you want to send a notification, you know, you set what kind of notification you want to receive and how you want to receive it. Right now, the only option is email. But in the future, you know, you come in here, you say, I want to know when the device is offline. You'll have an option to configure this to work with the work order up software. So this way, when a device goes offline, you might get an email or a text, but when it's offline for a certain amount of time, then you're really going to get the notification you want or create a work order to go fix the problem. So this brings us to work order up. Well, work order up was created about 4 years ago. My brother started an HVAC company, and I think he woke up to the hottest day of the summer something like 123 missed calls, 8:30 in the morning. And he's like, that's a missed opportunity. But he wanted to grow his business. So I prototyped the thing out real quick, as quickly as I could, so that he could kind of manage work orders. And then from the ground up, we built this. This is a work order management system. Go ahead, I'll log out. It's a work order management system. Any company could come sign up and have multiple users in their company for just their thing. So it's got a landing page and some little bit of content, nothing crazy. But we come in here, we log in, and you're in your company's space here. So this was geared for HVAC, but what I want to do is change this to be something that is applicable to any kind of work order. So in this case, a work order, we'll talk a little bit about the work order. The work order itself starts with a base work order. And in this case, that's this information here that has a status and who that status was set by, the name of the customer, their company name, their phone number, their address, and a short description of what's the problem. Customer's dying, come fix ASAP. And in this case, we also have equipment. And because it's an HVAC company, they want to know, am I working on a refrigerator? Am I working on a HVAC system or a heater, or what is it? And anytime something happens to the work order at this point, besides that base work order, everything after this, you can think of it like a timeline. It's a record of things that have changed over time. Some of those actions, like changing the status, will also change the base work order status. But the important thing is you have a record of what status change happened, who it was by, and when it happened. So let's go back up. Let's say that I'm working in an HVAC company and somebody calls. I say, oh yeah, you got a problem. Your thing's broke. What's your name? They say, oh, I'm John Minton. So I type in Minton. Their name pops up, or their business name, their first name, their last name, their business name, their email, their phone number. Any identifiable information will bring them up. And you come to kind of the customer profile. And so we have addresses. We can add a new address if we want. And addresses have equipment. Equipment belongs to an address. So here, if we were to add a new piece of equipment, I say from the drop-down, which address does it belong to? Well, this is the office is the only address, so that's the only one we see. So we can add equipment, and then after we have at least one address and one equipment, we can create a work order. And you can say it's an emergency, like a pipe is busted and I need someone here yesterday, like right now. Or it's just a problem, schedule me in. Or it's preventative maintenance, meaning you might come in a couple weeks and not next week or not tomorrow. And test, I don't remember what I was doing with test. But anyways, we'll say it's a problem. It's at the office, and here's the only piece of equipment at the office. So now we have all the information about the customer, the equipment, the address, gate codes, anything that is needed to make that happen. That all goes here. And we just say the thing is broke. Somebody else trying to come in. There we go. Awesome. So this creates a base work order, and the work order has some customization. So first things first is after the work order is created, I publish it. Now anybody in the company would come over here and see in the open section that there's an open work order. If they want to say, well, I'm one of your HVAC technicians, I'm one of the field technicians, I'm going to claim that. So they come here and they claim it. Now it's theirs. Then they say, okay, I'm en route, I'm driving there, and it timestamps everything. So they take 30 minutes to drive, whatever. Now they're here. The first thing they're going to do is assess the problem. So they come back here and they say, yep, the thing is broke. And the customer, and you say, customer, that's probably going to be like 2 hours of work, and it's whatever. They talk about it. The customer says, all right. They do a little signature, and they say approved or denied or whatever. So at that point, maybe he goes to lunch, maybe he has to make a call, but when he's ready, or go get some tools before he comes back, but then he begins work. And however long it takes him to do that job, he finally finishes the work, and he says that, what just happened? He says, fix the thing. Customer says, yep, you fixed the thing. So let's go ahead and put our signature on there. Approve. And then he can create a little invoice as part of closing out the work order. And the invoice here, this, again, it's just reviewing. Here's the equipment. This was a problem urgency on commercial or residential. It might be an emergency. He might be out there at 3 in the morning, which I've been on a few jobs with my brother, myself, doing stuff like that at restaurants that have walk-in freezers that stop working, and they want to be able to sell food the next day. And so it's like, hey, it's an emergency. Can you come out right now? So, you might charge differently based on the urgency and the job type. But anyways, you can fix that up. It has a breakdown of the record of all the things that were done there. And, I didn't integrate a payment system. I thought about it. I thought about using Stripe or PayPal, and I just didn't want to do that yet. I felt like that's something that I would work on later. So for now, they take a cash payment, a card payment, whatever the HVAC technician or the HVAC company uses, they're just recording how the payment was made. There's a comp payment here. Let's say that, and a lot of HVAC technicians will do this. They're like, hey, it's going to be $72. You're like, hey, I'm a little short. I got, 65. And they're like, yeah, no problem. You would just mark the comp payment down so it can be tracked. So they finalize the invoice. Yep, it's done. It all slides back, and it goes down here in the closed section. And the closed work orders will show here in the closed section on the front page for a couple days, because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but a customer may call you back and say, hey, I've, you came out and you fixed a thing, but I'm having another problem or a related problem. Can you come back out and look at it? And of course, as an HVAC technician, you're like, I guarantee my work. Of course, I'll come look at it. There's no charge. Let's go see what's going on. So yeah, there's the dashboard. There's a little record section here. I can look at all the things between a couple dates. I hit search, match any incomplete, open, claim. These are statuses for work orders, and there's all the work orders between that date range. You can download a CSV of it for other company purposes. And there's an empty feedback page here that someday I'll have some kind of feedback form. We did have a feedback form for a little bit, but we took it down because we didn't need it. Yeah, and again here, this has got, I love this. I built this modal about a decade ago, but I just love the way it moves. It looks really nice, it works really well, and it's extensible. And it's just another React component. But yeah, you can manage company users, the people that are working at your company. You have company settings. You can set your tax rate. You can set what you're charging for things. Subscription settings. I think that errors out right now. I did have PayPal integrated into this so that if somebody paid for the service, they would just be on a PayPal subscription and I wouldn't have to manage anything. But that's had some issues. It never actually went live with that. Or you could edit your company information here. And we'll do more with the modals later, I think. But that's the basis of it. So altogether, we have the automation controller and its devices, and they're reporting data, doing their thing. They're also reporting to Heartbeat, and Heartbeat is going to let us make sure that we keep things online and working. And when there is a problem and something needs to be done, like actively, it will create a work order, send out notifications, and then we can process and manage that work. I feel like the only thing that this is actually missing is the last piece of software that I really want to build, which would be a nice piece of a nice platform that would have big, beautiful charts where any data could be thrown at it. It'll chart it out nicely, and we'll integrate. Here's the work orders. Here's the system health information. Here's the all the information that you need about your device or devices. But it's really providing the users a historical view into their data. So we would build tools to analyze the data to determine, well, maybe they have an automation network and they need to fine tune it. Maybe they need to change something. This would give them the tools and the insight to assess their data to determine what they need to do to improve their operations. So I'll stop talking there. It looks like I have a question. DS?
Yeah. So for graphing, I see why you would want to build your own application, but why not, for example, report all of these metrics into a Postgres database and then just pull it up with Grafana?
Yeah, you could. Absolutely.
I feel like it would save development time substantially, and it would also make the market quicker.
Yeah, and I'm not married to any particular idea. I'm like totally open. I think the idea here is I had an opportunity to share something I've been working on, and I recognize I'm just a lowly software developer. I cannot do this by myself. But if it ever was to become something more, I would just have to let go of those reins and say, let's brainstorm, let's come together and see what makes sense. Um, I'm good at one area with like building stuff, but I'm not a business person. I'm not a lawyer. I don't have insights into the market or anything like that. But I'm sure there's a lot of people who have that kind of information. Hey Matt, a lot of that information and insight, and they'd be better equipped to make those kind of decisions to create a profitable product. And I do have this kind of philosophy mindset. It's okay to fail. It's okay to try something, do it wrong, learn from it, and do it again. And just because we do it one way now doesn't mean it can't be done another way later. I think it's important to start where you're at, get things to market as soon as possible with some kind of minimum viable product, get all the mechanisms in place, and it just becomes a process of revision over time to, like an agile principle to just continually, iteratively develop on something and make it better and better and better. Personally, if I do get something like this off the ground, I want to be the best damn company at whatever it is we are doing. I don't know what we're doing yet, but I want to be the best at what we do. And I think that happens when, and I'm preaching a little bit here, but I hate the way modern corporate structures are set up. There's this feeling of like powerlessness and insignificance, but there's a lot expected and demanded of you. And I want to do something different. I want to break those rules. I want to break down those walls, and I want to do something different. I see you got some questions there. Yes, hopefully I answered your question there. I think that's a great idea, and we should definitely consider that.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk shop.
Yeah. All right. Mohammed, go ahead.
Oh, yes. I think it's an excellent idea. I'd say you mentioned lawyers and marketers and stuff like that. I think basically a salesperson or a person that's like really good with sales would really help make it very successful. They could really, because it already it's a good product. I'd say basically a strong salesperson, as well as also I think just more could be done with the visual side of things, with the React and stuff, or just maybe like a UX UI designer or something like that. Just make it a little more presentable. But the core of it is in that it's able to get the health of the devices and provide that feedback. I think it's a strong product.
Awesome.
I have one quick question would be, is it so I know it monitors, for example, hard drive space, just stuff that might be able to be handled remotely. So what enable, like, let's say the hard drive is 100% full and it needs to be just, the space needs to be cleared up so that the device could be working. That basically could be handled remotely with the system?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's actually one of the things that it was used for the most is when disk space reached 90%, we'd shoot out a notification. And then we go look and be like, oh, yeah, something is running and it's just creating system logs. So you have like 3 gigs of system logs on a small system with limited space. So you go clear them out and then you're good for a couple more months, Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I think it's a great it's a great product that has great potential to work in a lot of different areas. For example, I know, like, I'm based in New York City.
Yeah.
In New York City, they have the the congestion pricing and things like that. But they have devices. There's a lot of devices on the traffic cameras and stuff like that, or just devices in general. And those devices may go down. This is a big city, so they might go down for various reasons. So there needs to be work orders put in, and so that people need to be able to go and repair it and stuff. But I'm sure a lot of it is probably small IT problems, like, okay, maybe the hard drive is too chock full, or maybe there's something that can be set remotely, so we don't have to have a million different or thousands of different people, physical technicians going to each different
Yeah, I mean, the idea is
Stuff like that.
to have something that gives you a little bit more data. Like in the tech world, if you don't have monitoring in place to look at different things, then when something goes wrong, you're like, well, I don't know where it is unless you're measuring what it could be. So you have to think,
Right.
think of that stuff ahead of time. And yeah, that's exactly what this tries to solve. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
We could apply it just a mirror. There's I'm not gonna say infinite, but there's a, or maybe it could be applied in a lot of different areas. Basically.
Okay, so
a lot of different cities, a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
A lot of different
I see there's a couple more questions. I'll get to you in just a second. But my problem is that I'm ideas, and I think to make this profitable, we need to hone in on one narrow area and do a killer job at it, and then we'll see where it goes from there. But I don't know what that one area is. I don't know if it should be like in the restaurant industry, or if it should be something greenhouses and farming, or if it should or industrial sprinkler. I don't know. I have no idea. So that's just one of those conversations where, like, I'm just a developer, but I would love to have more conversations around, like, well, what could it be used for? And I would imagine that somebody who is more marketing savvy would be able to do some market research and be like, well, this looks like an industry application that has enough money, it's big enough, it's expected to grow. This is probably what we should aim for. But I need that feedback because I don't even know how to do that. I don't have that deep of an insight into it. I don't know how to do that. So,
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, right. I'd say, yeah.
Awesome.
Congestion cameras and traffic cameras and stuff, I think that could be a major industry. Because you have multiple cities, you have traffic cameras everywhere. In one city, then city by city by city. That could be one area, but that's just the idea.
Okay. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. That's good. And it just gave me a notice. It says that I have 15 minutes left in my meeting, and I can start a trial for $0 for 1 month. I might do that if we want to talk longer. But go ahead, Andrew. Go ahead and get me your question there, and we'll just keep trying to run through this.
Yeah, so you wanted to focus down on something, but I wanted to bring up, have you ever thought of, like, updating firmware or like IoT security or anything like that in terms of it?
Yeah, absolutely. The ESP chip here, this supports over-the-air updates. What that means is that I can program in C or C++, build the image file that I want to flash it with, and then I can use the over-the-air updates through Heartbeat to update the device remotely. As opposed to Linux systems where you might click a button that runs a process that pulls something down from GitLab or some other kind of thing, But yeah, absolutely. Security is really important when it comes to this kind of thing, and there's going to have to be more discussions around it because I'm not sure what I don't know that there's an elegant solution. There's always a trade-off, but I don't know what the elegant solution is yet for that. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I would love to work on something like that with you.
Awesome.
So,
yeah. Perfect.
Okay, sweet.
We need it. Thanks, man. All right, who's next here? Joel. Go ahead, Joel.
Hello. Good morning again. Yeah, it's a great concept and a great prototype. If I may call it like.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. It's a prototype.
Yeah. So I've also been a developer for majority of my career life, and right now there are when you're developing something, it's always about the three pillars: scalability, security, and sustainability. So anytime we can create applications or programs, but there always comes a time that you really need to enhance something or to add something or remove something.
Yeah.
So it's really important that the architecture side of it is manageable.
Yes.
It's really helpful if your developers are few or you're just a single developer. As long as your architecture is very dynamic.
Yeah.
So how do you plan on addressing these three things? Because it's really easy to market anything.
Yeah.
We can sell anything, even to our mother, right?
Yeah.
But
Not for me though. Yeah.
But the problem here is what are we selling something with value, or will
Yes.
it just add junk to their mountain of already existing junk that they
Right.
have?
Right.
Will we be creating something good, or will it just destroy our names in the process? So
Right.
these things, I'm very particular with these things because I always like to prepare even before I go into something. So these three pillars very important: the content management or the admin page, the design part. If you're using something like Figma or similar platforms, documentation. These are the things that I'm really interested in. Aside from the product itself, then
Yeah.
for the device and your application, I think aside from aside from you really have something here. Aside from what you already did so far, what my question would be, how can you create a generic application that will work on this device that you ordered online? Because I think you can create multiple generic applications, have a good content management or admin page, work with the three pillars, and then just while you are looking for that perfect market or perfect software that you can have subscription based, maybe on the back end, we can try and look for how to make it generic and be applicable to all those devices. Sorry, I took a long
No, that's okay. It's hard for me to give a straight answer to that. So like I do agree with you. Like this is definitely a conversation that needs to be had, because I've come towards approached all of these projects from a cool factor. Like, hey, that's useful. Hey, that's something I want. Hey, if I had a greenhouse, I would do that. And I do have plans to have a greenhouse someday. I haven't quite got there yet, but when I have a greenhouse, you bet I'm put this in there, you know. But if it solves a problem for me, I think, well, it must solve a problem for someone else, you know. But I'm just one guy in this small bubble with no influence and not a lot of connections to people in these various industries that might benefit from it. So I need to reach outside of myself, and that's where I was, you know, the opportunity to talk to you guys today was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm a software developer. I'm just want to see who has the expertise that can help move this forward. I don't know. It's kind of not probably the answer you were expecting, but I definitely appreciate you asking it, and I want to have more conversations about it. Yeah. Looks like we got about 9 minutes left. Did anybody else need the link to Slack? If and you know, there's no pressure. If this is something like I want to put as much control and freedom into the hands of the people that I'm working with. So if there's a thing that you want to do that you think would probably be good or could be helpful, or you tell me what you want to do and where you think you'd fit and what you want to work on, and it's yours. Go ahead and sign up on the Slack so we can stay in touch. And I think moving forward, it's just kind of figuring out some form of organization so we can have like a weekly touching bases, or yeah, we'll continue on Slack. And I'll see if I can get the recording. Google wouldn't let me record it. I tried to screen record it. We'll see if that works. If so, then I'll definitely post the recording. So yeah, I don't know. I'm what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the future is full of limitless possibilities, and it's an experience and a journey, and I'm going to go on it. And whoever wants to come along, the more the merrier, you know? All right. I'll leave this up for just a little bit longer, because I believe when the meeting closes, it'll delete, you know, everything. So I'll let this sit here for a little bit longer. If you guys want to chat, if you want to jump on Slack, the Slack definitely there's a general channel, and that general channel is you know, introduce yourself, drop some contact information, whatever makes sense, whatever you want to do. And there's some other there are some other, what are these called? Channels. There's some other channels for the automation controller, for the ESP32 devices, for Heartbeat, for Work Order Up, legal, marketing, all that kind of stuff. So if there's like a discussion you want to have about like the automation controller, try to keep it over there, and that way things just kind of make sense. And yeah, I hear my kids banging on the door. I think they're eager to come in now. Thank you everyone so much for coming. I'll mention.
John, thank you.
Yeah, I'll mention really quick.
Good.
A few days ago, I posted that post about the interview, and I think I'm just broke 4 million impressions on that post, which is crazy. Really, absolutely crazy to me. I've never had that kind of exposure in the past, but yeah, I want to appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your day to hear what I have to say, and see what happens. Like I'm excited to just be a part of something, and to find that group of like-minded individuals and have that camaraderie and that like team spirit, kind of thing. But we're doing this for us. We're not doing it for someone else. We're doing it for us, And if I'm gonna play the role of a boss or something, I don't want to be a boss, because I want nothing more than to go to work and have absolute creative control and the ability to like do what I do already, but to do it and make money. Like, why couldn't that be the same for Of course, we need to have conversations and determine what we need to do to make that money. But we need to shift the focus of those conversations to be like, how can I help? Here's what I have to offer. Here's the skills I have. Here's what I do. Where do you need me? And that's how I am with my teams when I'm doing software development. And I usually find myself teaching and educating and going through things and signing up for things that I don't know how to do because I'm not afraid to fail. But every time I fail, I learn something new. And so there's really no such thing as failure. Failure is a figment of your imagination. And we're not going to fail. We're going to go out there. We're going to do something amazing. We're going to kick ass. And we're going to be the best damn people at doing whatever it is we decide to do. And nothing's going to stop us. Nothing's going to stop us but our own self-doubt and our own, life happens and shit happens in life. And so there's no formal expectation of like, you have to do X, Y, Z. You do what you can do when you can do it. And the whole purpose, if I can summarize this in one thing, the whole purpose here is that you don't want to go to a job, you don't want to live life, how to say it? You don't want to live life so that you can go to work. You want to go to work so you can live life. I want a company that lets us live life to the fullest. That's the goal. So anyways, thank you so much, guys. I'll wrap it up there. I'll see you all in Slack. And have a good night.
Yeah, good stuff, John.
Thank you, guys.
Have an awesome night. I'll be over there in Slack.
Right on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.